All right, good evening. This is Jim Howard with Trinity Security Allies. I have one of my faithful companions here helping me out, Jessica. Jessica is now up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and helping us out on this. She is working with a nonprofit that is working with human trafficking victims. So I'm going to turn it over here to Jessica and let her talk about some of the events, current events that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, so really we only had two things, well, two different topics to talk about for current events tonight. One of them, if you have been following us on Facebook or get our current events email, you've seen it ever since the Roe versus Wade decision, the Supreme Court ruling. There have been lots of different vandalisms and graffitis and just destruction of property on churches. Lots of pro-choice stuff being spray painted on church doors, statues being destroyed, flags being stolen. Recently in Maryland, I think there were either two or three churches that they connected to. Somebody was committing arsons at these churches. So there were at least three up there. And I believe I saw another one today. And so all of this is happening. Tons of just minor kind of attacks on churches right now. So if this is the time to get cameras or anything like that for your church property, if you don't have them already, or kind of do some environmental design to kind of beef up the exterior of your church just a little bit, because we're seeing tons of those. And then just a reminder to be checking your church's social media if you see anybody complaining about your church in particular. Whether I was looking at a church's social media for some other reasons, and I saw somebody complaining about COVID still. So there are people out there that are still posting that. If a church is upset about the Roe v. Wade decision, I saw a church that somebody was questioning what the church's abortion views are. So if you see that in your comments, make sure that you're keeping an eye out on that. But for current events, really the only thing is increased vandalisms, which leads to an increase in arson, increase in destruction of property. So just really be on the lookout and keep an eye out for that.
I also, if you start to see some stuff on your Facebook page or your website, people asking these questions, you might want to see if you can't get a little extra information, and also contact your local law enforcement, because if it is somebody that might possibly become a threat. And when we're talking about threat, Jessica's bringing up the vandalisms and arsons, but there's going to be some disruptions. And we've been talking about this. We've been going around and we've been showing some of these disruptions. And this is kind of what we're going to be talking about a little bit tonight. So thanks, Jess. When I was with the police department, I remember in the summer times that, like, first off, there would be no school. So kids would stay out later. Vandalism started to go up. We noticed that our vehicle burglaries started to rise because parents would allow their kids to be out a little bit longer because there was no school. We also saw hot days, and a lot of these lower income homes had no air conditioning, and that would cause issues because people would just be miserable, and there would be more drinking and being outside. So we saw a lot of kind of an uptick of just minor crimes, not like robberies or things like that, because that really just happened all the time. But it seemed like with more people out, the longer days, no AC, all these things that added up, kids being out of school, it just seemed like we were chasing around petty crimes. And it just seemed like we were just always working on issues that were in the community and making sure that everybody was safe. So when I take a look at this and I talk about the temperature rising, one of the things that I have to do is I have to look at the recent United States Supreme Court rulings. And some of these are very important to the church or important to Christians. I think they all are. But some of them, I think, are going to start to cause churches issues or religious organizations issues, just because of the way that they're leaning more and more. The conservatives are leaning more and more toward a Christian point of view, where in the past we saw it that it just kind of sometimes didn't go Christian way. I mean, if we look at Roe v. Wade, I don't think that there was anybody as a Christian really that understood what was going on during that time frame. I mean, we're talking 50 years ago when it came about. But what I'm looking at is what I'm seeing online, in the news, these people who are going out and what they call peaceful protesting, which is not, and the vandalisms that are increasing, it's just one of the ones that I think we really need to focus on. Now, the Roe v. Wade, of course, is a 6-3 decision by the Supreme
I
Court.
know Dad talked to me earlier about having some Wi-Fi problems. So let me text him really quick and see what's going on. But I
Am I
know
back?
just
Am
all
I
these. Oh yeah, you're back.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I usually get a note after it's done what it's doing. So I do see that it just gave me the note. All right. And thanks, Jess. Jess is going to jump in if I do have some internet issues. We just seems like we're just having more and more issues. Anyway, Friday, the Supreme Court 6-3 decision annulled a tradition of almost 50 years of abortion. And this article said that was considered a constitutional right in the United States. That's not exactly true. And even though they did overturn Roe v. Wade, what they did do and what the court said was the power to regulate abortion should be returned to the people and the elected representatives. So it did not overturn or get rid of it. It just turned it back over to the states. Another newspaper wrote that the Supreme Court's abortion decision is likely to set off a wave of legal and political disputes among states and the federal government, unlike anything seen since the years before the Civil War. So legal experts warn us that this could be our next civil war, which I just think is bizarre. Another Supreme Court decision that really doesn't affect us as much, but it does go more toward the Second Amendment. And it's the High Court annulled this by a 6-3 vote against a law that in New York, it had been restricting gun possession or weapon possession on public roads in the state of New York. And so they got rid of it. It was a 100-year-old law. And so, representing the majority, Justice Clarence Thomas argued that the Constitution protects the right of an individual to carry a firearm for self-defense outside the home. New York was doing a lot of restrictions behind it, that they had to show good cause to be able to have a weapon or carry a weapon. Now, the next one that is a little concerning, because back before Biden was president, there was an organization that came out and was trying to get it struck that one of the other Supreme Court rulings that you could not use state-funded school money or voucher money or school choice money for religious schools. Well, the Supreme Court on Tuesday struck down a Maine government tuition program that barred public funds for going to religious schools. So once again, this is a victory for us, and it's something that we need to pay attention because it could cause some issues among non-religious organizations when they don't get the money and religious schools do. Now, of course, we saw the Supreme Court curb EPA power to limit greenhouse gas emissions. These are just things that the left likes to point to, or unsteady people sometimes like to point to. And really, they're starting, if you've noticed, there's starting to be a lot of vandalisms where they're going around and letting all the air out of the tires of SUVs and leaving notes on that says, maybe now you won't pollute the earth with running your big gas guzzling vehicle. But the reason why I list all these is that it just started to show us that once the Supreme Court kind of did something that is a little more on a conservative side, the left comes out and starts to do some sort of crime or some sort of statement. Now, we haven't seen a lot of that in the state of Florida. I'm going to say that. Those that might not be in the state of Florida, you may be hearing about it. But I could see this happening and starting to come our way. I don't know why people think that in the state we're immune to it, because I could really see some of these things happening. And then the last thing that we wanted to talk about, the Supreme Court rules on the former football coach who was praying after the football game. They said that he could, and they violated his rights by firing him. And of course, this is just one of those that they come out and they say this is tearing down the walls between the separation of church and state. And if you really don't know what that is all about, this is not a constitutional law that says the separation of church and state. This was an opinion from from Jefferson, who had came out to say that the government could not establish a state-sponsored religion, but neither could it prohibit others from freely practicing their own religion. So it's just, they just take it out of context. But as I said, the papers and the left on the side are coming out and saying that this is just going to tear down. It's just one more step toward the government taking over our religion or forcing us into a state type of religion. And it's just not true. But we have to be aware that there's people out here that feel this way, that there's people out here that think this way. And we have to make sure that we are watching. And this is why it's so important for us to start talking to everybody that comes into our church that we do not know, that looks a little, if you don't know the person, somebody of your safety team should be welcoming this person to your church and having just a 2-minute conversation with them to find out how they got here, how they found out about y'all. Did they just move into the neighborhood? What is the reason that they're coming into the church? And this is some of the stuff that we're training on. We're training a new series on What Everybody Tells You. It's a book by Joe Navarro, and it's just an incredible book, a fascinating book. I've really been enjoying reading it, and I'm using it now for some of the training that we're doing. So when we take a look and we see these things that we're talking about, things that concern us, we have to understand that the Department of Justice just recently put out a document that says that there is an increased possibility of threats against public gatherings, faith-based situations, schools, racial and religious minorities, government facilities, and personnel, U.S. critical infrastructures, the media, and the perceived ideology opponents. What that means is if they don't agree with you, there's a possibility of a threat. Threat actors have recently mobilized to violence due to factors such as personal grievances. Well, what is one of their personal grievances? They're upset because of Roe v. Wade. Reaction to current events. They just might not agree with the EPA decision, and so what do? They go out and start letting air out of the tires of SUVs. And here to violent extreme ideologies, including radical or ethnical or racially or ethnically motivated anti-government, anti-authority, violent extremists. When we take a look at then what the View said, which I just think adds fuel to the fire, with recent events, they came out and said it's part of the Christian nationalism, the rise in violence, Christian nationalism that we have seen, which is also disturbing. They use biblical principles. They pervert them to justify this. It's God, guns, and Trump, or God, guns, and whatever. Whoopi Goldberg went on to say, it's always been this way. This is the way it was down south. They used to use the Bible and say, you're not people. God doesn't see you as people, so we don't see you as people. Well, some people go, well, I don't watch The View. 23% to 25% of this country feels like the country's going in the right direction. And because of that, they listen to what these people have to say. And there is a concern there, because I think if we go back and we take a look at everything that's going on, the perversion that's going on, the mental illness that's going on, these people, all they need is something to get them started, and they come after innocent people. And when we talk about that, we talk about the recent events, the Buffalo Tops Friendly Market. Of course, that was a racial attack. We talk about the Geneva Presbyterian Church. That was the attack from a Chinese original against a Taiwanese church. I mean, that is exactly what it was about. He had written a manifesto, and he talked about doing this. The Robb Elementary School, we can look at that as a mental health issue. And we see that this person was killing cats online, showing it video, and also talking about raping and murdering women. The Ames Church, where the 2 victims and suspect were dead, this was a domestic. And so we can go down the line and we can start looking at different things that are causing these. Over 40 attacks on churches and pregnancy centers. We talked about this. This is all due to Roe v. Wade being overturned. The Highland Park shooting, this guy, mental illness again. The police had been over to his house on multiple occasions. On one occasion, he threatened to commit suicide, and they took away all these different knives. And what bothers me the most is one of his family members had to sign a piece of paper as a reference to help him get his weapons. Why that happened, that's just something we have to look at. But it is mental illness. all these different things like this, we're going to start seeing them coming to the church. Now, we might not be seeing active shooters, but we've seen it. The Geneva Presbyterian Church and the two victims outside the Ames Church. These are things that are happening at churches. But what we may see, and what I think that we're going to see a lot of, is this that just happened at Lakewood Church. Pay attention to what's going on here, because this is the type of thing I really think we're going to see more of. Jessica informed me that there was no volume to that. That wasn't on purpose, but they just were protesting the Roe v. Wade decision. And I mean, you can go out online and see it. It is out there. It's kind of sad that it happened.
There you go.
Okay. There was no volume on that. That wasn't on purpose, but
You could hear it.
You could hear it
when they started yelling. Yeah, you could hear it.
Okay. All right. So, but those are the type of things that I worry about that's going to be happening at your churches. So what you should be doing is paying attention to who's coming in, if it's somebody you do not know, or if it's somebody that has stated something before, put something on Facebook, as Jessica said. All these different things like this, we need to be watching, because it is very concerning that they're going to disrupt your church. What happens when they disrupt your church? People don't feel safe, and they would rather sit there and watch it online than come in. And that's not the way we should be meeting in church. Now, I talked about this once before, and I just want to show you that nobody is safe. And it's really kind of, I was out of town, was not watching church. Jessica was online watching this on, were you on your phone, Jess?
Yes, I was on my phone watching it.
And all of a sudden, this started to pop up on our online feed. And you can see these are things that we've warned y'all about. We've talked about this. What do you do? And I will tell you that I talked to the person who was monitoring this, and they were deleting and blocking this right here, the person that was doing this, as fast as they possibly could. But they were coming in as different names because they would change just one thing. If you look down, whoop, sorry. If you look down here, you can see that this right here has got those emojis, and then this right here has got different emojis. Even though that it is basically the same thing, that is allowing it to get online because it's a different name, a different person, or it looks like a different person. So these are the things that they're going to be happening out here. And we really, truly need to make sure that we're watching this. You should have somebody that is on there. You should have somebody that is paying attention to your live stream and being able to stop it as soon as it starts to happen.
All right, it looks like he froze again, so I can just talk about this too. When it comes to situations like this, I know that YouTube has Facebook Live. I'm not sure how many problems that they've been having, but I know that YouTube has come out saying that they have a lot of problems with it. So if your church is on YouTube, that definitely might be something that you want to look at. I don't know if there's a specific software that you can get that can block these, but these are basically just bots that send out stuff to any live that has a certain amount of people. It's just an algorithm. So I'm sure we can look into I can do some research on if there is any software that we can get to kind of help churches out with that. If Dad, you want to keep going?
Yeah, I appreciate it. We've got a storm that's coming in right now, so this might be some of the interference that we're having. So, any questions, anything out there before we go into the end? We just need to be prepared, folks. I really am worried about this summer. We have not had an attack on a church in a while. I mean, any attack on a church is serious, but we've been fortunate that I think that we're more aware of what is happening around the country, and we're keeping our eyes open and we're talking to people, but it just concerns me because I feel like it's a matter of time now before we really have something big.
So we did have two hand raised. Now we have one, but James Shoemaker said that the congregation at Lakewood was applauding the woman. And then Michael Bureau has his hand up, and I typed it in the chat, Michael, but I'm not sure if you saw it. But if you type whatever question or comment you have into the Q&A, we can get that answered for you too.
Well, James, I want to correct you on that, because if you listen to the tape, Joel Osteen says, "Isn't it great to be in the house of the Lord today?" And that's when people started to cheer. And that's when people started to drown out those that were doing the protesting. So I have a different point of view of that because of what he said. He said, "Isn't it great to be in the house of the Lord today?" And that's when people really started to cheer and clap and things like that. They weren't clapping for those protesters. I don't feel it that way. I mean, you may see it that way and that's fine, but I see it as, because of what he said, it drowned them out from their yelling, their propaganda and things like that. So
yeah, it was really difficult to hear the audio on those videos. So I understand why you might think that, because really the only part that I heard was her yelling. The sound, we're just having Wi-Fi issues, but in the follow-up email, I can send out that video with all the sound and everything. And then it looks like, Michael Bureau said it was just a mouse problem with the hand. But yeah, Harvey Hunt asked what happened to the sound. And yeah, that's just a Wi-Fi thing. I'm going to send out a follow-up email. I'll put in the current events. I'll put in that video, and I'll put in some of what we've been talking about. So I'll get all of that out to everybody.
anything else?
I am not seeing anything else right now, but I will keep watching until the end.
All right. Okay, so say this all the time. I'm going to keep on preaching it. Should not be carrying unless you have some sort of protection. We work with USCCA. They are now sponsoring us in a lot of our trainings, which is just excellent for us. It's helped us out a lot. We're able to go to smaller churches that might not be able to afford to pay for the training. If you're interested in having us come out to your church and do some training, get up with us. Let's see if we can get USCCA to come out and sponsor that. But you don't drive without insurance. You should not carry a weapon without insurance. These are the type of trainings that we're still offering out here. We just found out that we're getting ready to go to Texas, which is very exciting. So we're all over the place. We're working a lot with Pasco County right now. One of the deputies is trying to get us out more and more. So when we have those type of trainings that are happening in Pasco, we'll put that out, and anybody in the area will always be more than welcome to come and see the trainings. We are on Rumble right now. And now the Zoom that we're talking about is the free resource, what we're doing right here, right now. And then, of course, Jessica puts out current events. We have ebooks out. We do weekly alerts. And then, of course, if you need me to come out, we're more than welcome to come out. We have online training on the second and fourth Thursday of every month. And then, of course, we have our memberships, which is $25 a month or $250 a year, which gives you access to all of our training that's online. One ticket to our annual church safety conference. And then, of course, you get to come on our online member Zoom calls. So that is what helps you out with just the membership. And plus, it helps us out. We're able to continue to do this. We have been blessed. The Lord keeps continuing to bless us, but it's only because of your support. Church and safety security membership, it's $250 a year or $250 a month or $2,500 for the year. That gives you 5 tickets to church safety conference, scheduled phone call consultations and Zoom meetings, 2 4-hour training sessions or 1 full day training session during the year, 1 4-hour Simulation training can be used as one of the 4-hour trainings, and then access to the members only Zoom meetings with safety team members from all over the United States. And like I said, we're really excited because we're about to pull in a church from Texas. Our members only, that's not right. It should be July 23rd, isn't it? Or July 21st?
Our members only meeting will be July 21st.
All right, July 21st. I'm sorry I didn't catch that one. And of course, True Christian Talk, where Kevin Haggerty and I, Kevin, who is a pastor, we talk about things that we're seeing. If you did not hear our Rumble today, please go out and listen to it because it talks about transgender. And if you say anything against transgender, this is what they said. This is what a lady said, that you're transphobic and that you're also putting that transgender's person in jeopardy, their life in jeopardy. And it just is bizarre because it's just like we can't speak about something that we may not agree with, or we may not feel like it's a part of our world, because if we do, that puts that person in jeopardy. And it also talks about, we talked about how that you need a scorecard now to figure out who is a male and who is a female, because the way they have it is that you really can't decide on your own. Somebody else has to help you, or you're just a vibe. Crazy stuff. Receive a copy of my paperback book, please contact us. You can go on trinitysecurityallies.com or God's Unseen Plan, $20 donation, and I will sign it and send it to you.
It looks like he cut out again, but you can go to godsunseenplan.com and you can get a copy of the book. We do have the book on Amazon, but Amazon takes a portion of all of the profit that we get. So please, if you can, go to trinitysecurityallies.com or godsunseenplan.com. I think we're going to skip the trailer for the book just because all the questions that we have. It looks like Dad is back. But if anybody has any more questions, now is the time. And also just want to throw in, we do have Trinity Security Allies Facebook. We have a God's Unseen Plan Facebook. We have a True Christian Talk Instagram. And if you're looking for any links or you want reminders on when trainings are, you can go on there and we post reminders, we post updates, we post links, and we post really anything that you need. So you can follow those on Instagram or Facebook. It looks like you're back, Dad.
I'm back. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. We appreciate you guys sticking with us.
It has been one of those nights. And like I said, we're going to have to figure out what this computer issue is and get it taken care of. But we do appreciate you being here. So what do we got, Jess? Anything else?
Nothing else. Just want to say again, I'm going to send out links and everything afterwards. And if you would like the current events, you can either go to the church safety networking group on Facebook or sign up for the current events email every single Sunday. That's all from me. And it looks like there are no other questions or comments.
All right. Well, please be safe out there. Be blessed. Just remember that we're working toward the expansion of the kingdom of God. And that while we're doing that, we're watching out for the flock. We have to stress this, that we are ambassadors for Christ and that we are there to help expand that kingdom. And it's very important that we understand that the safety teams are a ministry, and we need to stress that out to our churches and make sure that our pastors understand that, make sure those that come to our church understand that, so they don't think of us as a police force, but somebody who is just making sure that they can worship in a safe environment. So with that, thank you very much. God bless y'all, and we'll talk soon.